Full house on a Sunday morning. The winter has already passed us, so I think we all got up a little early in the morning and are here. I'm going to make a lot of controversial statements today. So please bear with me. We'll have a healthy discussion at the end of this presentation, and whatever questions we'll try to answer them. Now, what am I going to talk to you about today? I'm going to talk to you about the biggest problem that we are facing across the world, but specifically Gujaratis, and this is related to our health. So I'm going to talk today about diabetes, obesity, vascular health, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and what are our concepts today and how we have somehow taken a little wrong turn and how we can get our health back. The idea of showing this picture is that the problem that we see on the surface, somebody who's got a population with diabetes, there is a large number of hidden problems in the society where there is a lot of insulin resistance. Somebody who has not yet become diabetic, but if doesn't take a U-turn in the health, can very easily progress towards that. So this is the chronic disease spectrum of our life. When I started my practice, I was 60 kg. And from here to here, it took me 25 years and 30 kg of weight gain. Gradually it happens over a period of maybe 1 kg, 1.5 kg here and there every year. You don't even notice. There is something called a boiling frog syndrome. So a frog does not have a fixed temperature like us humans, 37 degrees centigrade. It is adjusted to the environment. It is a cold-blooded animal. So if you put a frog in a boiling water, it immediately jumps out. But if you put a frog in a cold water and gradually raise the temperature to boiling level, the frog's system gets adjusted to that, and over a period of time it just doesn't jump out. It might boil to death, but it will not jump out. So this is exactly what is happening in human being. Whenever we have an acute cardiac event or acute vascular problem, we rush to the cardiologist and ask for treatment. But the beginning of this problem has happened something like it takes 25 to 30 years to go from point A to point B, and somehow if we can take a U-turn somewhere around this level, I think the overall problem of health infrastructure requirement will definitely reduce. Another thing which I would like to say is when I started my practice, there was only one cath lab, that is I'm talking about 91, 92, 93 in Ahmedabad. Look at the number of cath labs today in Ahmedabad, 20, 25, 30, and all of them running busy. So there is something we have been missing. The number of TKRs going on in the city has just exponentially grown in last 25, 30 years. And we are trying to address this problem today in my talk. So what are the myths and what are the realities? The myth is we know everything about food, diet, exercise, and weight management. If you log into Amazon, there are some 22,000 books available on various diets. There is the GM diet, and there is that Atkins diet, and high protein diet, and low carbohydrate diet, and all sorts of things. Each one of them is effective for a short while, and then when you go back to your normal self, back to square one. The journey of the chronic disease keeps on going in the same direction. So the point is we know very little about it all. So it is time to unlearn and relearn. And that is my attempt today. Another thing which by this simple fact that, okay, I will go on a so and so diet for so X number of days and I will control my weight. 90% of the body processes are under autonomous control, and we are very thankful for that, because a human being has survived the millions of years and did not get extinct like a dinosaur because of this autonomous control of the brain, the hypothalamus, the liver. I'm talking about the metabolic part of it. Under control of hypothalamus, liver, your body doesn't decide, doesn't ask you whether your blood pressure should be 120, 80 or 150, 90. It just autonomously regulates that. Your body doesn't ask you what should be your sugar today. It just regulates according to the hormonal effect. So this is where we have to understand that, and we have to work in collaboration with that, and probably then only we will be able to be successful. Another fact which has been a big problem, dietary fat is the cause of obesity. If I eat fat, I get fat. But this again was a wrong turn we took somewhere near Udaipur on the way to Delhi, and we have landed in a very different direction in Siroi rather than going towards Jaipur. So this was the problem with this. A gentleman in 1978, 79, they studied, Ansel Keys was his name. He produced this data that the more number of dietary fat, the more the coronary heart disease or cardiovascular disease incidence throughout the world. And he studied the 7 countries data, and that led to all of us skipping our ghee, butter, coconut oil, everything, and we started a very heavy discussion on whether groundnut oil is good or sesame till oil is good or safola is better, these, that, how much should we take? No, I don't take any ghee, or we go for chapatis without any ghee. The whole problem was the original data was like this. It was not a 7-country data, it was I think 22 countries. And look at this data. There is no straight line. It was a wrongly somebody fudged the data to suit to my purpose. What I believe that fat is the cause of the problem. And so I removed those 15 countries and just kept the 7 countries which I can draw a straight line. And this is where the whole problem of misjudgment has started. And we will go into a little bit of details into this. So whenever we read some research, some survey, we should have an open mind and a questioning mind to analyze the data properly, especially as Dr. Banker said about the probability and the possibility, the statistical analysis. And this is something very important, because all the journals, all the material that is available on our WhatsApp University, it's not always accurate. It's not always. We have to have a critical analysis of the thing so that we don't make a mistake. This was what we were supposed to be, and this is what we have become. And why that has become, we'll try to interrogate that, and how to not only posing a problem, but I'll try to give you a solution for that. So there are, as I said, there are 2 phases of type 2 diabetes. If you can see in this graph, minus 14 years. 14 years before I become diabetic, this is the period of insulin resistance. This is where my body, because of excess carbohydrate intake, it keeps on depositing all my carbohydrates, converting into fat. Every year maybe a kilo here, kilo there. And over next 15 years, I become a full-blown diabetic, and that is where the body can no longer store my sugar in the fat form, either in my liver or my muscles or my mesentery or my organs, and then that sugar spills over into the blood, and we start demonstrating it is more than 150, more than 200, 300. But it gives me 14 years of this picture, and this is where we are trying to attack the disease so that we don't land with all the problems and complications of type 2 diabetes. I'll restrict myself to type 2 diabetes today because that is the 90% of the problem. Type 1 diabetes is a totally different disease animal, and we will not talk about that today. So this is the, again we come to which is known as insulin resistance. Now what happened was, we had all this knowledge earlier also, but somehow instead of measuring serum insulin level or the insulin resistance, we went for glucose monitoring. And glucose monitoring tells me, oh, my blood sugars are normal, 110 fasting, 140 postprandial. I am not diabetic. Just check your same insulin level with the blood glucose. So glycosylated hemoglobin became the gold standard. There was this guy, Dr. Kraft, in 70s, he was a pathologist, and he had standardized the insulin assay way back in 70s. He is a 96-year-old gentleman, alive today and still working, still giving lectures. So this gentleman, but then we never measured. So in a normal person, in a normal human being, to metabolize say 100 grams of glucose, it requires his fasting insulin 5 units to go up to 20 units and back to normal. The job is done. In an insulin resistant person, the fasting glucose, which is 10, still normal, but it has to go all the way to 70, 80, 100 to metabolize the same 100 gram of glucose. It does it successfully, and still your blood sugar doesn't go beyond 130, 140. So just measuring the blood sugar has put us into a false sense of security that I am still not diabetic and I need to do nothing. So what happens during these 25 years before you become a full-blown diabetic is you become obese. So a large population is constantly fighting against weight management. Let's talk about that a bit. What we have done is, we have go to a doctor, I say, you need to lose weight. Okay, how do I do it? Oh, eat less, move more, go for a morning walk. So even patient says, okay, from tomorrow instead of 2 chapatis, I will start eating 1 chapati. So counting calories has what we sort of have evolved it as a sort of mathematical puzzle. That okay, if I am eating 2000 calories, I go to 1500, my problem is solved. But that it works in the short term. It does not work in the long term. Why? Because the body, once it senses that you are eating less calories, it reduces your basal metabolic rate and it adjusts to that 1500 calorie diet. And that is where the problem happens. So eat less, move more is not the way to health and weight loss. The calorie in, calorie out is not proven to be effective in solving the problem of metabolic syndrome, because the body does not recognize the food that we eat as a calorie. 1 spoonful of sugar and 1 spoonful of butter may be carrying the same number of calories, but the quality of the calorie is totally different, the metabolic pathway is totally different. Carbohydrates require insulin pathway, fat requires bile acids and liver metabolism to come into play. Proteins are again a different molecule and it is metabolized in a different way. So this is the 2 biggest theories of how to treat weight management. One is, as you see, caloric management, which we are all focusing on, and second is the management of the endocrine system. Understand the hormonal theory of food management, calorie management, and where these 2 meet together, probably the answer lies somewhere here. Not only in this, not only in this. So we consider, as I said, type 2 diabetes is a disease of blood sugar elevation, and once our glycosylated hemoglobin is normal, we just consider it as I am in full control of the situation. But type 2 diabetes is a disease of insulin resistance which starts decades before blood sugar increases, as I said. Now, how do I find out whether I am prone to this disease or I am likely to develop diabetes in next 10, 15, 20 years or not. Simple thing. You don't have to go to a doctor. You just get up in the morning, measure your waist to your height ratio, which is very simple. You can do it at home yourself. If it is more than 0.5, 50, if my height is 5 feet 6 inches, then my waist should not be more than 33 inches. If it is 34, 36, 37, 38, I am insulin resistant. There is just no other way of becoming fat other than by elevating my insulin level. It's a very simple act. So these are the certain slides which shows weight, circumference and insulin resistance, which has been extensively and scientifically studied, so you can go ahead and measure that. Now I'll come to what actually happens. I'm a vascular surgeon, I'm a cardiovascular surgeon, so it has become my duty to take care of the vascular health of all my patients. And vascular medicine is what I would say like to practice as far as possible. Now, our biological age and our vascular age, they are two different things. How do you measure your vascular age? So recently I got myself checked. I am 56 years old. My vascular age was 64 years old. So I was behaving like a much older man than what I was. And how do I do it? So if you get a good radiologist, intima media thickness on an ultrasound can be checked, and that gives you an estimate of vascular health. Other things which are important is ferritin levels. If your serum ferritin level is high, it indicates that your vascular health is not as good as you wish to be, which usually we measure ferritin level only to diagnose insulin deficiency or iron deficiency anemias, but it is very important in managing the vascular health. So another thing which is highly, it's available in this city very much, highly underutilized. So you need to detect your plaques earlier. So if the best the test to determine if you are really interested in knowing is a cardiac CT, coronary calcium scoring. So if it takes 10 seconds of a CT time, it's not much, not invasive, no dye is injected, nothing. And that you can detect this thing at much earlier level when everything is normal, including your stress test, your coronary angiogram, and your echocardiogram are normal. That is the stage where it can be, okay, boss, the atherosclerotic process has started, you better take precautions. So if my coronary artery calcium score is 0, which it should be, then I can write myself a warranty certificate. In next 15 years, I am not going to develop any major coronary or stroke or carotid cerebrovascular event, and that's a good time. But if it's suppose say 400, then there's 20, 25, 30% chance that in next 5 years I'm prone to developing an acute event, and that is what is very important. And most important is, if it is 400, I can take treatment or precautions and reverse it. That is the whole point. So let's come back to our favorite subject of obesity. What is the cause of obesity? We have seen that, okay, you are eating too much sweets, but we know people who eat sweets like anything and is still slim. So you are basically eating lots of fat. We know a lot of people who eat lots of fat and still they are thin. You are eating too much food, calories. Again, people who are building their body muscle mass, the bodybuilders, they eat a lot of protein, they eat a lot of 5,000 calorie diet, and still they don't become obese. They may develop muscle mass. So what is the problem? The problem is frequent carbs plus fat. The combination, because when you eat carbohydrates, as your prime source, and some fat, then or the processed food, as we call it, a donut or something like that, that is, then the body stores your excess calories as fat, because storing energy as fat for future use, which we never give it a chance to do it, is the most energy efficient method of storing, because each fat molecule gives you 9 calories, while a protein or a carbohydrate gives you only 4 calories. So body prefers to store it as fat. It's per gram thing, it is more efficient. So what is the problem? Sugar. Sugar is the only substance that humans ingest that has no nutritional value whatsoever. No essential fats, no essential amino acids or proteins, no vitamins, no minerals. In terms of sugar, we either eat it on top of what we should be eating, in which case it can make us fat, or we eat it instead of what we should be eating, which leaves us nutritionally deficient and we end up sick. So we are getting fat and sick at the same time. See, as far as food is concerned, there are essential fatty acids, there are essential amino acids, there are essential vitamins, there are minerals. Carbohydrates, there are no essential carbohydrates. We eat complex carbohydrates, we get it from plenty from vegetables and fruits, but when we purify it in the form of sugar, when we purify it and then we consume it, it's in the Western population, the problem is of sodas, the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi. You will also say, I don't drink Coca-Cola, Pepsi, but in my practice, in my patients, what I have found is cup of tea. The khitla apa chai is the killer, you know. People drink 6, 7, 8 cups of tea with 2 spoons of sugar every day. And so we are all getting fat. Now, another myth which is in our mind, you need to exercise more to weight loss. A patient, I advise them, go and lose weight. Oh, I can't walk because I've got osteoarthritis of knee and that's why I'm fat. I can't lose weight, I can't. See, basically, if you walk for 45 minutes, you spend 100 calories. And your baseline energy expenditure throughout the day is 2,500 calories. So it's hardly 5% of your energy expenditure. You can't walk for 24 hours. You can't do that. So what is the metabolic syndrome that we have? Again, the key word here, the guy who described this was very smart. It is metabolic. It is, so something is wrong with your metabolism to create. What happens? So let's start with here, high insulin levels to process the carbohydrates that we eat compared to the normal people, pre-diabetes, weight gain and abdominal obesity, that is where the waist and height ratio comes into picture, high blood pressure, coronary artery disease, cancer. The incidence of cancer in obese people is 3 to 4 times higher than in the normal population. Dementia, we see a lot of people, 70s, 80s, even me, I have foggy. I can't remember a person's name or something. I have read the name of the actor immediately. It takes 5-10 seconds. This is just beginning of dementia. Maybe at 75 I will forget what is my name. High triglycerides, low HDL. So we keep on checking our cholesterol. This is exactly what we see in our Gujarati population. Everyone comes with this. And we try to solve it with a statin. Then go further down the same road, type 2 diabetes, and then its complications. We see a lot of PCOS, that is polycystic ovarian syndrome. When I started my practice, as I said, there was only one cath lab, now there are 25. There is hardly any infertility work going on. And look at the number of infertility clinics running in this city or in this country so effectively because of the high incidence of PCOS. And more important, which we have not understood, is the fatty liver. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is a very, very prevalent condition. It is part of this metabolic syndrome. So, what are the roots of this tree? Insulin resistance in liver and muscle. And what are the fertilizers? Starch, grains and sugars, basically the highly processed foods. So much of the modern life is a preventable chronic stress injury. Now, let us look at the role of insulin, which we have been talking about so long. You eat food, obviously the insulin comes into play, it increases insulin and stores sugar in the liver, and that is converted into fat in the liver. Okay, if you don't eat, what happens? If you do not eat, then you fast for a time, it reduces your insulin, and then you burn the stored sugar in the liver and burn the stored fat in the liver. So when you are not eating, that is the time when this happens. So function of insulin is to increase the glucose entry into the cells and turn on de novo lipogenesis. That is what, if it sees that the tissue needs sugar, it gives it to that. If it says, okay, there is extra calories, it just stores it as fat. So there is a lock and key paradigm. Now, I'm going into this first MBBS class of physiology and biochemistry because it is very important. I also probably learned it and I learned it wrong, and I need to unlearn it and relearn it. So what we have always been told is diabetes is a disease of poverty amidst plenty. That there is plenty of sugar available. It cannot enter the cell because of diabetes. Actually, it cannot enter the cell. So we feel that the cells are starved of calories. Actually, it is not internal starvation. It is, do you think this guy is starved? He's overfed. There is no question of any starvation inside. So let's go to the liver, the powerhouse of our body that determines all the metabolism. Stored sugar in the form of glycogen. If there is high insulin, and stored fat is low lipogenesis in presence of low insulin. So under conditions of persistent high insulin, liver becomes full of sugar and fat. It is doing it as a service to the body, that once it becomes full, then the insulin is pushed away, go and store these things somewhere else. And then comes the muscles. Once the muscles are loaded, comes to your abdomen, mesentery, abdominal fat. And that is how, and when all these stores are exhausted, then it spills into the blood and you become a full-blooded diabetic. So if your insulin is low, this stored fat can be used as by your body to use for the metabolism. Now, what is insulin resistance? It's an overflow phenomenon. There is too much luggage in the body. Okay, so what does my endocrinologist do? I'm having very high sugar. He gives me insulin. So what is the role of that insulin? I already have high amount of insulin in type 2 diabetes. So that insulin, just like these guys, they are trying to push more passengers into the train, but the compartment is already full. Okay. So this is the difference between a normal liver and a fatty liver. It can be very easily diagnosed by the ultrasonologist. He keeps on seeing it all the time. And now they have stopped even reporting about it. They just write normal. This is 50-year-old guy, is bound to be fatty liver, no problem. So what causes this fatty liver? So fat can be manufactured in the body only from carbohydrates and only by insulin. So if you have higher insulin, you are obese. So it's not that I'm obese, that's why I've got high insulin. It's because I've got high insulin, I'm obese. So the key thing in this is when you have sugar that is 50% glucose and 50% fructose. Now, glucose is the essential thing which whole body utilizes for metabolism. Every cell, including your brain, is very sensitive to that. But fructose is like alcohol. It cannot be used directly by the body. It has to go to the liver. The liver is the only organ which can metabolize an alcohol and fructose. And that is what causes a fatty liver, and that is what causes insulin resistance. And the funny part is, I take 1 tablespoonful of sugar, 50% of it is fructose, it goes to the liver. 50% is glucose, which I am monitoring on my blood sugar. I'm monitoring, we call it blood sugar, but actually it is blood glucose. The fructose part is not even monitored. So we are just looking at half a problem by just focusing on the blood glucose levels and glycosylated hemoglobin and all. So this is the sugar ball which is overfull in a type 2 diabetic, and that is where the whole problem of, and we just don't stop eating it. So this is a small pictogram. This is what I was taught in this is a normal person. So the cell has got a lot of glucose. And I was told that the internal starvation, poverty amidst plenty, is type 2 diabetes. This is what is the problem. But what now I have unlearned this and I have relearned is that it is an overflow. There is plenty of sugar everywhere. That's why it is spilling over into the blood, and that is the cause of my type 2 diabetes. So, is it possible to take a U-turn? I was looking for a nice slide for this, and I was surprised by this. So, what does this sign mean? It is turn away from the past to eternity. It's just not going back to where you were. It's a fresh slate. You just go back. So, how to reverse type 2 diabetes? Is it possible at all? Yes, it is. Is it curable? Yes, it is. Is your hypertension curable? Can you get rid of those antihypertensive and anti-diabetic medicines? Yes, you can. And that is what I am going to try and cover in the next few slides. So simple is, type 2 diabetes is too much sugar in the body. So what do? Simple logic, don't put more in, low carbohydrate diet. But I already got plenty of fat in my body. I've got 30 kilo extra. So what do? Burn it off. How do I do it? Not by exercise, by intermittent fasting. This is the slide of American Diabetes Association. This was echoed by my endocrinologist when, you start on metformin 500 BD, when we have to go to 1 gram BD, and maybe in the next 5 years you should be prepared to start taking insulin supplements as a treatment for your diabetes. So American Diabetes Association had said this, for most people type 2 diabetes is a progressive disease, and eventually oral medicines may not be enough to keep blood glucose levels normal. Using insulin to get blood glucose levels to a healthy level is a good thing, not a bad one. In presence of high insulin, which is because of my insulin resistance, you add, it's like using petrol to control a fire rather than water, isn't it? You add more of that. So, can we cure type 2 diabetes? Yes, we can. No diabetes, no diabetic nephropathy, no diabetic foot ulcers, no diabetic retinopathy, no chances of stroke, MI are reduced, and chances of cancer is also reduced. Is it possible? Yes. And what drug should we take for it? No drugs, no surgery, and no cost. So I think the Ahmedabad crowd will be very happy with this last statement. Okay. Now, how did we get this idea? See, bariatric surgery has been done all over. We have seen so many people. Okay, it cures diabetes, right? It cures diabetes in so many people. There is a proof. So surgery can, but what does bariatric surgery? It staples your stomach. It just doesn't allow you to eat. So what if I don't eat without surgery? Fine, then you get the same benefit as a bariatric surgery. Okay. Now the interesting part is, in spite of the bariatric surgery, at 1 month, the diabetes gets cured. People become euglycemic within 30 days, even before the actual effect of weight loss has started. They start getting rid of diabetes. Okay, some of my intensivist friend was telling, patient comes diabetic with head injury, unconscious. He is on rise tube feed. He cannot eat. So within 1 week his diabetes comes under control because he has not eaten for last 1 week. Same is true for my plastic surgeon friend was telling, fractured jaw. So if you have to do that wiring of the jaw, the mandible. We do it every day when we are sleeping, right? So within 3 hours, the serum fatty acid level increases. But if you don't eat for more than say 12 hours, there's a sharp increase in the fatty acid. So the body has started using your internal storage fat to as a calorie requirement within 12 hours of stopping it to eat. But we usually don't give the body that chance because we hardly fast for more than 7-8 hours. So now I'll go to fasting again. Fasting versus bariatric surgery. See the weight loss. This is with the diet and this is with the surgery. The weight loss is much higher with fasting than with surgery. And diet plus surgery, the daily glycemia pre versus post. So this is fantastic result.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
The time is over, sir.
Oh,
Thank you, sir.
give me 5 more
Sure.
minutes. Thank you. My previous speakers donated 5 minutes to me, so I'm going to take 10 minutes. So, speed is irrelevant if you are going in the wrong direction. We have probably been going into the wrong direction. And Max Planck, a physicist in 1928, he was a Nobel Prize winner. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The problem is now different. It's not about how much butter or ghee or cheese I have consumed. It's about how much sugar I have consumed, isn't it? And the key to weight loss is the quality of the diet, not the quantity, which we have always been focusing so far. And this is an old Ayurvedic proverb: when diet is wrong, medicine of no use. When diet is correct, probably medicine is of no need. This is the guy my presentation and my knowledge, quite a large amount comes from Dr. Jason Fung. He's a Canadian nephrologist who had been seeing diabetic nephropathy patients on dialysis for all his life and studied this subject in detail. And he has come up with this intermittent fasting. So what is intermittent fasting? The key word is intermittent and the key word is fasting. It's a pattern of eating. It is a way of scheduling your meals so that you get the most out of them. Intermittent fasting does not change what you eat. You are a vegetarian, you are a non-vegetarian, you are a Jain, whatever you are eating, it's perfect. It's God's given food. Go and eat it. But it changes when you eat. So instead of managing whether I can eat so and so thing or not, you go into time management. And intermittent fasting is not a diet. Okay. So how does it work? When you are fed, the insulin is high. It is working to metabolize the calories that you have consumed. And when your insulin is low, when you are fasted. So when you eat food, it increases insulin. It stores sugar in liver and produces fat in liver. When you are fasting, then it decreases insulin and it burns the sugar and fat. And that is what simple weight loss, right? So what are the benefits? Weight and body fat loss, that is the basic thing. It lowers blood insulin and sugar levels, so controls your type 2 diabetes. Increased energy. So fasting, does it make me weak? Not at all. You actually I feel sleepy when I have had a heavy meal, but I am very energetic when I am empty stomach. It improves fat burning. That is very obvious. More important is, this is a point I would like to stress on, is it increases growth hormone. Growth hormone is working in our body every day. And usually in human body, it is secreted at 4 a.m. because we are fasting when we are sleeping. That is the only time we don't eat. Okay. So 4 a.m. even in yogic times, I think that is called Brahma Kala. People who meditate, they get up at 4 o'clock and meditate. That is the time when the growth hormone is released. And this growth hormone, it is supposed to clean up the body of all the damaged cells. It's supposed to do autophagy. The autophagy is the key word. The 2016 Nobel Prize in Biology or Medicine was given to the person who did research on autophagy. And that is very important in prevention of damaged tissue as well as in prevention of cancer. So if you are in a fasted state during day, suppose I have done ekasana or ektana, I am going to eat only today evening. So morning no breakfast, no lunch, then my growth hormone level goes up 5-10 times than what it is in a eaten state. And that is what is the key. It reduces blood cholesterol, so no need for statins. Your prescription, your money is saved. Potentially it can prolong your life because your vascular health comes back to normal. It doesn't, if you are, that is the key. And it reduces inflammation. So these are the so many benefits of just simple thing like fasting. Now, how do we do it? Oh, there are many ways of doing it. You can, it's very, very flexible. So you can do a short fast of say 16 hours. Just skip the breakfast, go straight for lunch at 12 o'clock, dinner at 8 o'clock. And don't eat tomorrow morning breakfast, go straight for lunch and dinner. 2 times a day, it's enough. Or if you are more adventurous, you can do a 20-hour fast, just 1 meal a day. I can just, and this, we have been doing it all our life. I mean, my mother used to fast on every Agyaras or Guruvar or, you know, it's very simple. Or you can go for a 24-hour fast, fasting from dinner to dinner or lunch to lunch, whatever. It is very flexible, you can choose. Okay, there are people who do 5-2 fast, 5 regular eating days and fasting on weekends, or eat a minimum calories. And there are people who do longer fasts, like Atthai or whatever you do. Who should not fast? That is the key. If you are underweight, obviously you don't need to fast. You just consume, go and eat whatever you want to do. Pregnancy, breastfeeding, and a child under 18, which is the growing phase, so should not fast. So again, fasting improves immune regulation. It stimulates cellular autophagy. It improves genetic repair mechanisms. It improves insulin sensitivity. Intermittent fasting and chronic diseases are taken care of better. So what are the myths? Fear. There are don't need to be afraid of fasting. It's not something, it's not going to kill you, okay? The advantages are so many. Schedule, oh, it's in your hands. You can choose when to fast. You can choose, okay, today friends are coming over, I will stop my fast and eat a feast. No problem. And it is therapeutic. So there are certain myths. Okay, if I fast, does it put my body into starvation mode? No, it does not. Actually, the low calorie diet puts you in a starvation mode, but the fasting actually prepares you for the next meal, and it increases your cortisol level, it increases your fat burning mechanism. It makes you burn muscles till the fat is available. It will not burn your muscles because fat is very easy. Fat has been stored for this purpose. Okay, when you have no food, body will use the fat. It will cause low blood sugar. It does not. I mean, every year during this season, we see one full page of Gujarat Samachar giving commendation to people who have done a Thai or Mas Khaman or something. None of them. Even if my body needs to burn all my muscle or all my tissues, it will still maintain my blood sugar at 70, 80, 90 level because the brain needs sugar. That is why it never allows. The only time when people have low blood sugar is when a doctor is giving them either sulfonylureas or insulin. That is the only person who develops hypoglycemia at 4 o'clock in the morning and rushes to the hospital, not otherwise. So, fasting results in overeating. Maybe. What happens is I fasted today and tomorrow I am really hungry and maybe I will consume, instead of 2000 calories, maybe 3000 calories of meal. I'll eat extra. But remember, in 2 days of normal eating, I would have probably eaten 4000 calories. So I'm still positive by 1000 calories. So that's good. Fasting deprives the body of nutrients. No, because there are macronutrients like fat, muscle, carbohydrates and proteins. They are available in plenty in our body. There's no problem. Even if I fast for 1 month, there is not going to be any shortage. Micronutrients like vitamins, minerals, essential, yes, I do need them. So if I'm going on a really long-term fast, for 24 hours and all, it's not a problem, but long-term, I do need some supplements. And the biggest myth of all is, oh, it's stupid, it's crazy. Try it, it's not so crazy. So ignorant men raise questions that wise men answered 1,000 years ago. I think every religion, and especially Hindu religion, I'm a Hindu, Brahmin, we have been fasting for ages and ages, and it has been woven into religion because it's difficult to explain the science behind it. So meditation, go and fast during Navratri, don't eat anything. These are the two great gentlemen. We know Mahatma Gandhi used to fast at the drop of a hat. And remember, he did not die of a heart attack or a stroke. He died of a bullet. He was as healthy as a horse when he died, right? And this gentleman here, he had the guts to go to Barack Obama or a dinner, had a glass of water and came back because he was fasting for Navratri. Every day. There's no problem. So, time for us to get started. Let us take a U-turn, control our health without any money, without any cost. Thank you.